everyone, and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast with your hosts, George Tsounyas
and Maria Petrakou. Now today we're hoping to inspire you on the lesser known part of Athens, which is the Athens Riviera. We know that when you think of Athens, you probably think about the city centre and the Parthenon, but we wanted to show you another part of this vibrant city and also give you some ideas of how to spend 48 hours there.
And you know, you don't really think of Athens plus seaside, do you? Or, I mean, we do, but others don't. But I can guarantee you it's a vibe, and we are going to talk about this in today's session. But as always, before we dive in, if you're not following us on Instagram, head over now and hit that button on the Insta handle, which is at My Greek Island.
And also, if you enjoy the podcast, head over to the podcast platform of your choice and give us a rating and maybe a review, because it does help us keep coming back with even more content.
So, without further ado, let's get in to today's episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the My Greek Island podcast, dedicated to take you, the wanderlust, on a journey through Greece.
There are 227 inhabited Greek islands. Which one will you visit next?
My Greek Island, with your hosts George and Maria.
So let's get straight into the grilled. Did you get that? In Greek, when you want to get straight into something, you say, let's get into the grilled.
Do we?
But
I've never heard that
yeah,
before.
topsito.
You literally
Yeah, but it's a
translated
direct translation.
it.
Sorry, it just came to my mind. Irrelevant to the listeners, but anyway. So the first question we're going to kick off with, and it's usually what I personally get from people when I recommend the Athens Riviera, is really, is it worth visiting? How would you answer that first off, hun?
So I'm going to say that clearly every summer, both of us actually stay down by the Athens Riviera before we head off for our My Greek Island summer holidays. So if that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will, because we don't stay there because it's convenient. We stay there because we love to spend, well, me, a day or two, George, much longer, especially in the summer. So those of you that have visited the Athens Riviera usually tend to have some ties, like you do, and I'm sure you're going to mention it, or have friends that live nearby, or you've got insider info from My Greek Island.
Indeed, and a disclaimer, and obviously this is going to be quite biased, and we try to be unbiased as much as possible, but the Greek side of my family comes from Glyfada. I was also baptized there many moons ago. So, yeah, it's going to be quite biased. But Glyfada is lovely, and it's my favourite part of the Athens Riviera. So, when you think of Athens, as we said, the image of sandy beaches, beautiful coastlines, beach bars, cafes, water sports, it's not really something that spring to mind. Most people might engage with the sea in Athens at the port of Piraeus, and that's the main ferry port, which it's nice, but you don't really be thinking, oh, I'm going to be swimming in there. So it doesn't give that sort of vibe. So some key facts is the Athens Riviera is the southeast coastline of Athens. It's home to tons of beaches, marinas, and everything that I mentioned above.
Alongside the Athens Riviera, you will find the areas of Glyfada, Vouliagmeni, and Lake Vouliagmeni, which we will talk about, which is known for its therapeutic waters.
And the Riviera stretches for approximately 60 kilometers from Paleophalliro all the way to Cape Sounio. So for those of you that like some history and the fact I'm going to tell you later, it's a really nice place to visit.
It is. And at the end of the Athens Riviera, in Cape Sounio, as George mentioned, you can find the Temple of Poseidon, I think that's how you pronounce it in English, which offers absolutely stunning sunset views.
Yeah, and when we went, we weren't at sunset, but we can imagine what it would look like. And actually, for those in Athens, from what I've been told, obviously we don't live in Greece, is that from in recent years, and many people haven't been able to travel because of the well-known and documented economic crisis in Greece. They've actually explored the Athens Riviera a bit more. And you can really feel like you're taking a holiday. I mean, even if you lived in Athens and you had a free weekend, you could literally within 30 minutes to an hour, maybe two, depending on how far down you want to go, you can really feel like you're in another area of Greece, by the beach, really far away from the city. And fun fact, according to my research, Athens has the largest coastline of all major European cities, and its beaches consistently receive the Blue Flag Award for their exceptional water quality and clean air.
Oh, wow.
So,
I did
do you
not
go
know
swimming
that.
when you're in Greece, in Athens?
I've been a few times, but not enough. Not like you. Definitely not like
Maybe
you.
we need to do a few more beaches this year in Athens and see. So, people are going to be thinking, okay, this sounds really good. Maybe I have a few days in Athens. But is it easily accessible, and how long would I realistically need to explore the Athens Riviera?
So, Athens is one of the cities that overall, you can get away with not having a car. And that also applies to the Athens Riviera because it's very easy to get. It's actually easier to get to the Athens Riviera from the airport than it is to get to the city centre. It's much closer. And you do have buses doing the route, but also you can get a taxi or you can rent a car like we tend to do. But if you don't want to, you can get to the area quite easily from the airport. But there's also, if you want to be moving around in the area, there are buses and the taxis are quite cheap in Athens anyway. We tend to have a car because we prefer to be quite independent and get more things done and see more things. So, of course, I'd only recommend that if you feel confident enough to drive in Athens. It's not the easiest, but Athens Riviera is definitely much easier than driving in the city centre. Parking is much, much easier. So it's not as overwhelming as it would be to drive maybe in the city centre. How long would you need? I mean, I stay about 2 days just before I head off for my summer holidays. But I could stay so much longer. I think it's just time constraints that make it 2 days. So I would definitely recommend 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. And you could combine it with staying in the city and then going to the Riviera before you head off, or actually make that your holiday. And as we said at the start of this episode, we do have you covered by providing you 48-hour top things to do in the Riviera coming up. That was actually going to be the original title, I think, 48 hours in the Riviera, but we didn't want to confuse people with the Greek End episode, shameless plug, that we have about Athens. So you can combine Greek End in Athens with the Riviera, and then that is your Athens extravaganza planned for you before you go to an island or just stay in the area.
So let's move on to where to stay. So name a few places, George, where people should stay.
Yeah, so the three key areas I would say, I mean, there are many and you can see on the map, but the three key areas that we would probably recommend is Glyfada, as we've said, Voula, and also Vouliagmeni.
Yeah, I mean, I always choose Glyfada, and you tend to stay in Glyfada as well. But where I usually stay is very close to the main street, which is Angelou Metaxa, where all of the shops and cafes and bars are. And I choose that so that I'm on foot if I want to go shopping or go to a cafe or a restaurant or even a massage parlor or hair salon. I'm waiting for you to start laughing, but anyway.
I was waiting for you to finish. I didn't want to interrupt you. I was going to say you also do your nails, and that is not on the list.
It's at the hair salon that I go to. So.
Okay. Okay. So in Greece you can do your nails and your hair at the salon.
You can, yes.
Okay. I don't think you can in England. I don't know. Maybe you can.
I think some salons do, but yeah, anyway. So I usually choose somewhere close to Angelou Metaxa so I can have this, I guess, ease of being on foot when I'm not out and about. What
And I
about you?
mean, Glyfada is perhaps one of the most, would say, one of the most elegant districts in Athens Riviera. It hosts many, many stylish restaurants, hangouts, international cuisine, Greek fusion foods, which we found out last year. Well, I found out. Lots of shops for Maria, cafe. And it is really the place you should go, you know, if you really want to feel pampered. And it's really nice. You don't really feel like you're in Athens when you're there because you're also near the sea. It's just a bit of an escape.
Such a different vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, and in the past, and we're going to touch upon it a bit further down, it used to be very near the old airport. So it used to be much more buzzier, but there's lots more renovation and development going on in the area of the airport. So that is going to boost tourist numbers, I think, there. The other area that we talked about is Vula, and it has two very long, organized sandy beaches with, they are very clear waters. Again, it was awarded a European blue flag. And if you're in the mood for a sporty afternoon, there are water sports in Vula. And then we also have Vouliagmeni and beyond. And then you're really going into Riviera territory where, as I said, it will look more and more like another coastal area of Greece where you're driving along and you just have, you know, total blue in front of you. So that could be another area you choose to stay. And I think I touched upon Glyfada being near the old airport, which was Elliniko. And I think it occupied the airport until 2001 when it was abandoned and it moved to the new international airport. And this region of Elliniko is where the last metro stop is. We probably wouldn't recommend you staying there, but it does have, it's very, very residential, a really residential area. But the airport itself, you can do a drive-by, and I think up until recently it still had the old what was it, Jumbo 747.
Yeah, just to
Olympic
clarify
Airlines.
though, the metro station Elliniko is actually not at that close to the old airport.
No, oh no, it's not close to
So
the airport, no.
please do not go to the metro station of Elliniko thinking you're
Looking
going to
for the
find that
airport.
you're looking for the old airport. Yeah,
Yeah, it's probably like 2 kilometers. I've run it.
yeah.
But
There's probably there were until recently the planes were still there. I mean, I think it's 4 or 5 of them, and yeah, of course the 747 does stand out, the double decker plane.
It was iconic.
Yeah, and they're all of the old Olympic Airlines fleet. And I think the 747 was a museum, or you could hire it for private hires, I think, at some point. And fun fact, guess who was the owner of Olympic Airlines in the past?
What I thought it was the state, but probably not. That you've
No,
I
before
don't know.
that.
It's probably going to be on NASA's or someone because you like them.
yeah.
Is it? Is it
Yeah.
really? I know it used to be like really iconic to fly business class with them or first class. So they had like, it was really like amazing service and yeah, it had a
So
really
it was
good
owned by
reputation.
Onassis, and a lot of the flights were actually operated by his son Alexandros.
He was a pilot.
He was a pilot, yeah. And I don't know if you remember, the airport in Kythira is actually named after Alexandros Onassis. And I think it's because he flew there to help someone who was in need with, or something along those lines. So, yeah. But one other fun fact, I was actually living in Athens at the time of change of the airports. So I've actually flown into the Elliniko airport prior to 2001 and remember the change to Eleftherios Venizelos. And I remember at the time, I was just like, oh my God, the new international airport is just so far away.
So far, yeah. I mean, I always used to fly into the old airport, and because when I used to fly from the north of Greece to see my family, I used to be like you know, the little kid with
You
the little
probably
thing around you
didn't
and
fly to Elliniko then. You were probably flying to the domestic airport, which was Anatoliko. There's two. There were two. There
the
were
south side.
there were two airports.
The south side, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
But I because I absolutely love aeroplanes. Sorry, on a bit of a tangent. They always used to take me there, and you could stand literally on the fence and watch the planes. And used to be my favorite thing. It's like such a cheap little activity, just like take him there and stay all day.
So true.
But anyway.
And I'm going to plug one more thing. Well, I mean, until last year. Do you remember? I said to you, I'm going to go in the morning and try and
Yeah.
take pictures of the planes. Do you want to come? And you're like, no. And I was there at sunset. So just FYI, one of my favorite things to do
Sunrise.
is to go and see the planes at Elinigo at sunrise while George is getting his
I'm pretty
beauty
sure you did
sleep.
more of the sleeping last year.
Well, once we got to the islands.
Yeah, true.
Anyway,
You're proper switched
let's
off.
move on to the beaches. I'm not going to lie, I've not really spent that much time at the beaches in this region because I always only tend to stay a couple of days and I'm usually trying to catch up with friends or get a bit of shopping in. So, who better to talk to them than George, who has experienced them like a local?
Yeah. Big words there, like a local. I mean, I go to Athens very often because of my family. And whenever I'm in Athens, even if it's March, I want to try and go to the beach. I mean, if the weather's good enough in March, I will go swimming. But anyway, the beaches will depend on how far you wish to travel. So, for example, you can access some beaches via the tram network, and these are really much earlier on than Glifada. And you can get them on the tram line. So you've got there's beach bars. I'm not going to mention, well, I will mention their names. So you've got beach bars such as Akanthos, Nalu, which are all acceptable beaches for a capital city. Put it this way: if you've been to a beach like Barcelona, that many people rave about, these beaches are nicer, in my opinion. Fully organized, get very busy. Also have like beach club vibes. Then in the area towards Vula, as we said before, you get long stretches of beach. Some are organized, some are free. There you would have to either drive, get a taxi, or there are buses, so you can get buses. Thirdly, Vouliagmeni. The first thing that does come to mind with Vouliagmeni is the lake, but we will go into that. But you've got beaches such as Astir Beach, Vouliagmeni, there's lots of fancy restaurants around this area too, as you will find. I think it's the Four Seasons is around there.
Yeah, so it used to be the old hotel called the Astir Palace, I think it was called, which is on like the little region there that sort of pops out. Is called Asteras Vouliagmenis, which is also the name of the beach. And yeah, I think recently I think it must be a couple of years now, the hotel was renovated and it's now under Four Seasons Athens. And I think there's a couple of very, very good restaurants there. But I wanted to say, I'm not sure you mentioned, you said the ones near Vula, you can find some free beaches. So I'm not sure if it was mentioned that some of the beaches you do have to pay in order to go there.
Yeah, some you do have to pay, yeah. Yeah, that's so. When I meant organise, I mean obviously you're paying, but yeah, some you do have to pay to even get in.
Yes, it's not just a matter of paying for your
facilities.
sunbed; you have to pay to enter the beach.
Yes, good. And then as you head down further on along the coast, again you can take the bus, but maybe it would be easier being by car, so then you could actually do all of this quicker. You've got Vargisa Beach, which is on your way to Vargisa. The roads start to twist and turn. So yeah, good driving skills. And you will also find Limanaikia bays, which the bays of Limanaikia, meaning little ports. There's Lefteris Canteen and Aerosol Bar, all here. You park on the main road and you go down kind of the sides of the rock. One thing to note here, some of these beaches are nudist here, so do not get a shock. And other stops along the way of note as you're going down towards Cape Sounio. So as I said, it's 60 kilometers, all this. There's lots of beaches. Lagonisi Beach, Saronida. I do want to mention Anavisos and Agios Nikolaos Beach, where there is a little small islet with a beach on it. Very nice. And, terminating at Sounio, which we're going to cover shortly. As I've said, you can do the bus with some of these, most of these, but it will take a very, very long time, especially if you want to stop for a bit, then, move about. So I would recommend by car if you want to go anywhere after Vouliagmeni, I would take a car. And if you do go there for the day and you're limited with time, just be careful on the way back to Athens. it can take a very long time as there's just really just one road. And it can get very, very busy with traffic and the traffic lights as you're starting to come into Athens.
Yeah,
So,
especially on the weekend. On the weekdays, on the weekdays it's fine, but on the weekends, it can, especially on a Sunday, the traffic getting back into Athens can be at times an absolute nightmare. Very true. So maybe that's a tip to avoid it on the Sunday.
Yeah.
True. Avoid this on a Sunday if you can, especially if you don't have to do it on a Sunday. That would definitely be a top tip. Now let's move on to one of the highlights of the Riviera, which, as you mentioned, is Lake Vouliagmeni. I actually went for the first time last year with George, and although I did love it, I could not get over the fish biting me.
Oh yeah, that's an acquired sort of. I mean, it was so popular back over like 5-10 years ago. People would pay to go to a foot spa and put their feet in for fish to bite like their feet and stuff. But the main thing, I mean, also here is a place that I discovered I knew about, but introduced you to. It's visually very striking as you go there. It's a deep sort of turquoise aquatic paradise. And it's surrounded by a sheer rock face, and it has this sort of like, it's a natural spa with healing waters, I think, and it's just a really nice place to switch off and take a moment away from all the city. It's perfect for a full day or half day. They do have free parking, and you can get a bus. I will check those routes. But one thing to note here, before we get to seeing how you found it, is that in peak season, it can get very, very busy. So we recommend to get there as early as possible. I'd say by 10 a.m. max, because otherwise you're likely to queue in. They only let a certain amount of people in because there's some beds and chairs that are free when you pay in to get entry. It's pricey. It's around 16 euros for adults on weekdays and 19 at the weekend. And included in this admission, you can sit wherever you find a sand lounger or a seat, which is why you need to go early, but you can pay a bit of a premium to get like the bigger lounges, like the bigger beds.
I mean, the good thing is that they only allow as many people in as the place can actually handle.
Yeah.
So if you don't get there early, you're going to be waiting because it's one out, one in. But if you do get there early enough, it's a venue that a place that you'll never feel is overcrowded, because it's literally, they only let in as many people as it can handle. So that's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, you do need to get there early, especially on the weekend. I think on the weekdays, you're probably more flexible on time, but on the weekend, you need to get there early.
Yeah, I know the other thing is that residents of the area, they have like a pass to go in, and sometimes you see like older people that leave for their lunchtime, so that could be another time where it might get a bit quieter, but generally it's quite busy. There is a cafe and a restaurant, and it's really, really stunning at nightfall in the sunset. One thing to bear in mind is that the coffees are quite pricey. I think it's almost cheaper to have like a wine, but I think that's just done so people don't all just have coffee. But the food is okay. It's, finger food, club sandwiches and stuff. Yeah.
It's a general thing, though, I think, with the cost of coffee now.
Yeah, it's getting priced. I just remember being shocked. I was like, I want a Greek coffee.
Yeah.
Well, not a Greek coffee, but like a Freddo cappuccino. And I was like, this is quite pricey. But it's worth it. And let's not forget about the fish. How was that for you?
Yeah, I can't say I'm a fan. There must have been thousands of them when you get into the water. They literally start nibbling at your feet. Then they start nibbling, I don't know, anywhere that they can find any flesh. But yeah, I can't say that I was the biggest fan of that experience. And I think you had mentioned that it's opened all year round, right?
Yes. It's worth noting it's open all year round. And we can confirm that it does have facilities for people with reduced accessibility, which
and it
we
works.
Love to see.
And we saw it work. We saw it in action. No, not only is it's very well maintained, and we actually saw it in action. So we were very happy to see that.
And I think the waters, as well, they had some sort of not healing powers, but I think it's good for people that are in recovery. It must be recommended for them. And also on that note, we recently saw an article going around about these I think they're called sea tracks, so accessibility, making beaches across the Mediterranean more accessible, and the majority of those being installed are in Greece, which is really great. I mean, I think the first one I saw was when we were in Kythira.
Yeah, there was one in Kythira and Kapsali.
Yeah, which was really nice. We don't see them as often, but good to hear that more and more are being put in place.
Very true. Right, let's move on to Cape Sunio, which is the most southern tip of the Riviera. And it would probably have been the last bit of mainland sailors saw before heading off into the Aegean. And here, as we said before, you can find the Temple of Poseidon, which is particularly popular at sunset. But if we drove there, and we drove there on our way to the port of Lavrio when we were heading off to Kythnos last year. But if you don't want to drive, there are excursions that you can take I imagine, from the city centre. Or you could even possibly get a local bus there, but you would need to check the routes.
Yeah, I did do some research on that on the local bus network. They do have seasonal routes from the centre, but I believe they can take up to 2 hours to get there. And I guess once you've seen it, it's not like you're going to spend the day there. Like, there is beaches around it, but you're kind of like, you'd want to go back after. So I wouldn't probably recommend doing that. But fun fact, Maria, because I was doing my research, did you know that the Temple of Poseidon forms part of the Magic Triangle of Greece?
So I knew about the Temple of Poseidon and the Acropolis, not the third spot. I always thought the third spot was somewhere else than it actually is. So
yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was in Delphi, but it's not.
Yeah, I actually thought it was somewhere else, not in Delphi.
Okay.
But yeah, apparently it's not, and it's somewhere that I think both of us were probably shocked when we read up on that.
Yeah, so there's a triangle of a temple. So you've the Parthenon, the Acropolis, the Temple of Poseidon, and the Temple of Athea, which is in Aegina, which is actually not too far from Athens. And what was it? These three temples, putting you on the spot now, as you're a mathematician, they form an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle.
Isosceles trigono in Greek.
Okay, and what does that mean? It's two sides are the same?
I think isosceles. No, all three sides are the same.
Okay, fine. And which is quite amazing when it would have been made. Like, how did they know that? Like, yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is my limit of history reach for this episode, or even the month. I do prefer seeing these things for the views, for the pictures, rather than reading all the details. But there is lots of details you can read. Now, before we close off this episode, we want to give you a lowdown, as we said, of what you could do in 48 hours on the Riviera with a car, starting from the centre. So day one is going to be to you, Maria. And then I'm going to do day two.
Okay.
So should we go into
We should
one?
start, although I actually think I've made a mistake. I'm looking for isosceles triangle, isosceles. Yeah. You might be right, actually. It might be two
Is it two?
isosceles triangle. 2D shape. Yeah, it's two. So it's got two
sides are the same.
It's got two sides of equal and two equal angles. Apologies. I'm so embarrassed because I'm a mathematician.
Proper put you on the spot there.
Yeah, you did. And I got it wrong. But anyway, and I was sure I got it wrong, so that's why I started Googling, and I haven't been talking for the past 5 minutes, and George has been blabbing on.
So yeah, you're doing day one.
I'm doing day one. Yes, I have designed day one for you. So we said that we're staying in Glyfada, right?
Yes.
All right. So we have said that you're starting a day early, George and Maria early. What time is that, hun?
Well, it depends how you're feeling. Usually, I think you're probably leaving your accommodation 8, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. So we're going to start with breakfast or brunch, either in Glyfada or Vouliagmeni. Loads of options. Quite a few of them actually open In Glyfada, actually, there's not that many that open early. I can vouch for that. But there are a few.
Because you remember when we were looking and they were like closed.
Yeah, there is one or two that do open early though. In Vouliagmeni, there are more options. I think there's one option that opens quite early. So breakfast or brunch either in Glyfada or Vouliagmeni, or just go to a bakery and just grab something. Bakeries are actually super cool in Greece and the perfect place to grab breakfast. And then from there, we recommend that you head down to Lake Vouliagmeni and stay there for a few hours and enjoy. And either have lunch there or have lunch, somewhere nearby, or even head back to Glyfada for lunch. And in the afternoon, head off for some true Greek shopping in Glyfada, which is so easy because everything is so close by. But bear in mind, the shops in Greece, the majority, Monday and Wednesday afternoon and Sunday, the majority of the shops are closed. So bear that in mind.
One thing about the shops, because you really do like the shops in Glyfada and generally you like shopping, but there's lots of boutiques, isn't there? It's not just brands.
There's boutiques.
It's lots of boutiques.
I need to correct you. I don't like shopping.
Oh.
I don't like shopping.
In the boutique, where you know where to go.
So in Glyfada, I go to two specific Greek brands where I get the majority of my clothes. So whenever I'm there, I will head there. Otherwise, I'm not the person that does tend to go shopping. I'll only go to these two shops. I'm not usually wandering around. So yeah, sorry. Sorry, George, for the correction. Anyway, I tend to do my hair more than go shopping, if you remember.
True.
Or get a massage more than I go shopping. Anyway, so after you've headed to and yes, you're right. In Glyfada, there are lots of boutiques. There's lots of well-known brands that you'll find everywhere, but there are lots of local, small-run Greek businesses that are definitely worth checking in with them because they do have some very nice and very stylish things. But then you could spend the evening, like go for maybe a cocktail or whatever. There's some very nice cafes and bars in the area of Glyfada. And also, as George mentioned at the beginning of the episode, some very nice restaurants. Some potential options could be either Arc, which is on the seafront, or one of our favorites is Fidel Asado. But careful not to book the one in the city center because there's two, Fidel and Fidel Asado. And if you're going to go there, please do not go alone. It is not a restaurant to be going alone. It is a restaurant to be sharing. The portions are quite big. So you do want to be sharing that. You want to be sharing at that restaurant because you're going to want to try a few things. And then I'm going to add, if you're adventurous or up for a late night, you could even head to one of the nightclubs or like the live Greek music venues and, but get up to date with your Greek music because it is quite the vibe. So nightclubs, George mentioned before the area of Varkiza. And in Varkiza, there's a very, very famous nightclub called Island. And then if you want to go to like a live Greek music venue, definitely check the website called Athinorama. So it's athinorama.gr. And you can actually see who sings where. Like you can see what's happening with the nightlife scene in your area. So definitely check that out if you're going to end up having a late one. And a late one in Athens is late.
Is an early one for our start, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Can be like, yeah. And also the island in Varkiza is also nice for drinks. I think they have a restaurant, but I think it's
They do have a restaurant
dining
as well. It's not, I wouldn't say it's fine dining, but it's more on the bougie side.
Bougie. And then for day 2, so if you've gone to bed early, you're going to have to wake up early, basically, or just skip the morning. We would recommend driving down the coast, maybe pit stop at Limanagia or one of the beaches that we've mentioned above. And then you'd carry on driving to Temple of Poseidon to beat those tourist coaches that are probably starting from the center of Athens in the morning. Then you could stop off for a coffee and or lunch around the Anavisos area until the afternoon. And then heading back to Athens, you could actually, I've put here, you could stop for a coffee at Lake Vouliagmeni. If you don't want to go in and actually go swimming there, you could stop off for a coffee there in the restaurant. Or along Vouliagmeni, there are plenty of cafes along the seafront. You can just choose one. But also, if you wanted to make your stay a bit longer, you could choose to stay an extra night around the Lagonisi area, which is along the Riviera, to take it a bit easy. Or you could be like Maria and I, we did last year. We combined visiting the Temple of Poseidon. We combined it with taking a ferry from the port of Lavriel, which is on the east side of Athens, where they have several ferries that go to other Greek islands if you're planning on doing a Greek island tour and don't want to go from Piraeus. So that would be a thing you could do, because that's how we combined it, didn't we?
Exactly.
And I think that would probably bring it to a wrap for 48 hours on the Athens Riviera, as we've basically highlighted all the stuff we suggest as our top picks here.
Yeah, and a very loaded episode with loads of great recommendations.
Yes. So, you know what happens at this part of the podcast? It's our Greek phrase of the episode for our listeners, and trying to think back of what we thought of today. I'm just trying to think of a Greek word.
So what are you thinking of then?
So I'm thinking maybe we should do a word such as siga siga,
Nice.
which means slowly, slowly, which is firstly how you should be driving around around the Athens Riviera, and generally around all the islands. But it's also a word or a phrase you could say, you could answer if someone asks you the question, "Are you learning Greek?" You could say siga siga.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. And I'm going to add one here.
Yeah.
So, siga siga, another word is chalara, which means chilled, right? So, which is definitely a word we should be plugging when we do an episode on Ikaria, because it's a very popular word to say on that island, because everything on the island of Ikaria is siga siga and chalara. So I thought it would go very well with your siga
Nice.
siga phrase.
Chalara and siga siga.
Amazing. So I think we can wrap it up, right?
I think we can. Thank you all for listening. And remember, if you visit the Athens Riviera, let us know, and let us know what you loved and what you got up to.
Yes, and tag us so we can feature you on the My Greek Island Instagram account. Until then, see you on the next episode. Γεια σας.
Γεια σας. Right, my Greek Islanders, this comes to the end of another episode of this podcast.
Now you know the drill. If you like this episode, share it to share the love with the My Greek Island community, where everyone is welcome. And
Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And maybe give us a little rating from wherever you're listening to us from, so you are notified every time a new episode drops. And if you have any suggestions or requests, get in touch.
And for those of you visiting Greece, don't forget to tag at My Greek Island on Instagram for a future feature. Until then, see you later, or as they say in Greek,
Ta leme.